Welcome to Paradox Rift Buylist video. Paradox Rift is the latest Pokemon TCG expansion coming at you on November 3rd, 2023. It has a lot of game-breaking cards, including ancient cards and future cards that are going to be very impactful for the competitive TCG in the standard format. My name is Rahul Reddy, and I'm going to be your guide through these competitive cards that I'm going to pick up, my logic behind why, and you don't have to really listen to what I say. I just have a couple of accolades under my name. If you enjoy this kind of content, please like and subscribe. These videos do take me some time to make, so that's all I ask of you, just some support. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. I categorize my things into three categories. Must-buy cards, which I'm going to be picking up no matter what. They're going to be in my cart. They are cards that I think will immediately make an impact on the standard legal format. Spicy pickups, which are some cards that could be good, need some work, need some time for the meta to shape itself, or could be good like 5-6 months down the line. And then what I think is currently a trap. These cards are cards that I don't think will actually make any impact. You should probably wait till they're cheaper. You don't have to pick them up immediately off the rip. Something like that. So here are my must-buy cards. And I'm going to give you guys, for the must-buy cards and the spicy pickups, a little bit of an explanation. But for It's a Trap, it's going to be pretty much just like these cards suck, don't pick them up. I think Garchomp EX is one of the better EX cards coming out of the set, with an attack for 1 fighting that does 160 and accelerates 3 fighting to your Pokemon in any way you'd like from your discard. 320 HP is quite a bit of HP. Having free retreat and water type means that this card has access to Feather Ball and Irida to set up, and it just powers itself up naturally with the other pieces in its deck. So a Garchomp can power up a Garchomp and a Garchomp and a Garchomp. This is one of the decks that can attack for 1, utilize cards like Cheryl very well, and 160 times 2 effectively one-shots everything, or 2-shots everything in the current standard legal format. So this is something to watch out for. Yes, it is a double stage 2 deck if you play it with something like Pidgeot, or if you play it with something like Babarrel. It is still an evolution deck, but you are okay falling behind. You can play cards like Countercatcher and some of these other pieces to just make your setup better and bolstering it. I would pick up the other basics, 4 and 4 of the stage 1 and basic of the line, to bolster out the combo for Garchomp. I think Garchomp has a lot of potential. It might not immediately be good, but I think given enough time, it will see standard legal play. Iron Hands EX is the card that everyone is talking about, and their moms. I think everyone's mom's talking about it too. My mom actually texted me about Iron Hands the other day. Don't really know what that was about, but it is probably one of the best cards in this set, with the attack amp you very much, which allows you to take an extra prize card if you knock out a Pokemon with this attack. Now, this card is not really more than a 2 of in any of the decks that it's being played in. It can be splashed into quite a few decks. Chien-Pao, Miraidon, Lugia, Lost Box. I don't know. You can just name it. Wherever you want to put it, you can put it. But this card is really just going to accelerate the state of the game, and it's going to be one of the more hype cards coming out right now, so you should put some stock into Iron Hands EX. I don't think you need more than 2 for any given deck, but I like to pick up 1 extra just in case. So 3 is the number I'm going to be picking up. You don't have to pick up 3. I think 2 is a safe number to pick up. And if you ever need a 3rd, you can probably figure it out when you get there. Xatu is a very, very strong card. I think this card is going to be good for quite a bit. It's got the ability Akashic Sense, which allows you to accelerate a psychic energy from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon and draw 2 cards. So it's a built-in accelerator and draw. I think the engine is very easy to set up with the Natus, and I think this card is just pairs really well with Iron Valiant, and the idea of like how you want to play Iron Valiant, where you have low effort cards, a lot of turbo pieces, just you got to move, and yeah. Screamtail is probably a 1 of tech that can be played in Gardevoir EX, because it has a Roaring Scream attack that does 20 times each damage counter on this Pokemon or one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which gives you 160 damage snipe. But if you play something like Bravery Charm and maybe a Champions Festival, you can cap out at 260 snipe, which can close out a game against something like taking a Luminion to end the game, taking a like Chien-Pao on the bench, something like that. So I think Screamtail can become pretty easy 1 of in those kinds of decks. So again, by logic, I will pick up an extra 1 just in case. Iron Valiant EX is probably one of the few cards that will almost always be a 4 of in its respective deck. With the Tachyon Bits ability, it can do 2 damage counters when it moves into the active. This card has a lot of potential at piecing apart these small decks like Lost Box and Gardevoir. Any setup deck has to be very wary of the fact that Iron Valiant and its Tachyon Bits ability will just take that setup, rip it into pieces, and use that Yoga Loop to do it again and again and again. Now, it doesn't have really any late game sustenance, which is why that Xatu comes in, so you can use that Laser Blade attack to keep chaining those attacks over and over and over. I think this card is a must-buy, as one of the best cards in this set, and I would definitely pick 4 up. This Morpeko has free retreat as long as it has no energy attached to it. And well, Roaring Moon, our next suspect down the line that you'll see, needs a free retreater that can also hit pretty hard if need be. This Morpeko kind of fulfills that dual purpose, and it becomes an easy inclusion that doesn't require too much thought. Brute Bonnet is also a card from the Ancient series here that has Toxic Powder. If it has the Ancient capsule attached, then you can poison both actives, which can add more damage to your Roaring Moon's damage, your Morpeko's damage, or even your Brute Bonnet's damage if you were going to do 120 damage as a single prize attacker, which is pretty sizable. You can clean up some things. 130 is probably the number that most single prize attackers in this format have. So with Poison and Rampaging Hammer, you can pretty much one-shot anything, and the tool makes it so your Brute Bonnet has 180 effective HP. Roaring Moon EX is probably the second most or third most type behind Iron Valiant and Iron Hands in this upcoming set because it is a big beat stick card. With Frenzied Gouging, it just knocks at your opponent's active and does 200 damage to itself. So it leaves itself with 30 HP. Now, seems pretty okay at best, right? But you have that tool that puts you plus 90. But also, on top of that, Calamity Storm, for the same energy cost, does 100 damage, and 120 as well if there's a stadium in play that you discard. So this is your way to get around Path, Collapsed, any of your opponent's setup stadiums. 220 damage on turn 1, being able to be a threat being posed by this deck, can knock out almost any attacker, anything on the board for 220. And if you want to get to that 230 number, well, you have Brute Bonnet plus Ancient Boost Energy Capsule. So this is a combination piece that, seems pretty insane. It's the new big beat stick of the format. Definitely recommend picking this up and taking it for a spin. Then you have Stellar Veil Jirachi, which prevents all damage counters from being placed on your benched Pokemon by effective attacks used by your opponent's basic Pokemon. Effectively, it's just saying, hey, no Greninja, no Sableye. Those cards just get no. So Lost Box basically gets hard countered by this Jirachi tech. This Jirachi can go into card decks like Charizard, into Gardevoir, into Qian Pao, decks that need to actually set up and can't have their setup gutted pretty early. And so that means that this Jirachi is a pretty much staple. I don't think you ever need more than one Jirachi in any of these given decks, but I would just pick up 4 because I assume it's not going to be very difficult to get. It is a common, so might as well. Your friend might need one, and that's kind of where you come into play. Goldengo EX is one of the lesser appreciated cards in this set, but is still a goofy goober. With his coin bonus ability, you can draw a card, and it's in your active, you draw an extra card, so you can kind of draw 5, maybe 6 cards with your Goldengos just in one turn. And then use the Make It Rain attack from Singular Metal, 50x the number of basic energy you discard from your hand. So it's like a budget Qian Pao, effectively, that has a built-in draw engine. Now this is a deck that I think will eventually be good once the meta fleshes itself out, because you can choose what other basic energy types you want to play, what other attackers you want to play, maybe what your setup engine is, because right now, that's all a complete unknown. This Tatsugiri for a double turbo energy can just accelerate or just get 2 cards and put them into your hand. I think this card has a lot of merit in control decks or just random setup decks in general. So I'm just picking up 2. I don't know which decks I'll put it in, but I think this card, just based on how it reads, has to be good in my opinion. Ancient Boost Energy Capsule is a no-brainer. Pick up 4. This card is very useful in the Roaring Moon archetype and any future Ancient cards that we get, almost certainly giving your Ancient Pokemon plus 60 HP and removes all special conditions and can't be affected by any. The special conditions part, not so useful, but the plus 60 HP, pretty good. Then we have 2 Countercatcher. I think you don't ever need more than 2 for any given deck. Lost Zone Giratina could play a potential 3, so you could pick up 3 if you'd like to, but I think 2 is a good number to pick up, and then figure out a third. These are commons, or uncommons, I guess, so it's pretty easy to get. The Chest Plate, also I would pick up 3. I think this tool is pretty useful in random niche scenarios, and especially when some cards start rotating. I think this card will be a lot more playable down the line. Earthen Vessel is probably one of the best cards, if not the best card in the set, in my opinion. You can discard a card, put 2 basic energies in your hand, opens up the door for a lot of decks to abuse this card, and the possibilities are endless. The Future Capsule, I don't know its English name, but this card gives you plus 20 damage as well as free retreat. It's a staple in the Iron Valiant deck. Not only just the damage is like a gravy on top, but the free retreat is probably the biggest reason you want to pick it up, and I would pick up 4 copies of this no matter what. This Cape of Valor, I think it's called, is very, very strong as well. I think this is a tool that will definitely see play in certain decks, so I would pick up some just to have as an option. Mela, I don't think you actually need 4 of. I think 1 or maybe 2 is fine to play in like a Charizard deck, especially if you are going to be put to a low hand size. and maybe you're not like a Pidgeot reliant deck, or maybe you're a Barrel reliant deck, or your Arceus deck, you can attach that basic fire, fill your hand to 6, and set up your board to be like, hey, next turn I can put a lot of pressure on, and you can't really do much. Because a lot of the time you don't really want to Iona your opponent maybe, or you don't want to research the given hand, so maybe Mela is the supporter of choice. Professor Sada's Vitality accelerates a basic energy from your discard to 2 of your ancient Pokemon, and if you do attach any energy, that way you draw 3 cards. So it is an incredibly powerful supporter, especially for the Roaring Moon archetype, to just get that guy up and running, and I'm sure this will have a lot of use in the future. Professor Turo's, I don't think, Experiment or whatever, allows you to pick up any Pokemon and put all cards into its hand, so like an evolution Pokemon as well. Sorry, not all cards attached, just a Pokemon, and it's like evolutions or from evolutions or whatever. So you can pick up a Gardevoir EX, the Curly, and the Ralts, put it in your hand, but you also have to discard all the energy and whatnot. So this card kind of is like a pseudo Penny, but just not as good, but I do think it has a lot of utility in the scenarios you want to use it. I would pick up all the TMs because I think with Arven in the format, these cards have to be good at some point. I think the evolution and devolution tools both are already pretty strong, and they have a lot of potential already off the bat. But the other ones, the Turbo Energize and the, I don't know the other one, but they both are like pretty mediocre. But I would still just pick them up because they are pretty strong, especially with Arven. I would pick up 4 of the Ben 10 Watch here because Ben 10 Watch allows you to just set up your entire future Pokemon lineup. It's like a VIP pass on crack, with a drawback, I guess. And I think this card's really good. I think Tulip has a lot of utility, especially for Psychic type decks that are going to be budding in the future. So I would definitely pick some up and be ready to use it. That concludes my must-buy cards. And if you're going to pick up some cards, by the way, I'm going to take this time to put out a shameless plug and tell you guys to use my TCG Player affiliate link, which is in the description. All you have to do is put all the cards you want into your cart on tcgplayer.com. Once you're done, close out of that window, copy the link in the description, open a new incognito tab, paste it there, log in, and check out. It doesn't help you guys in any way possible, but it gives a small kickback to me, which will help the channel and other ways to support me. So thank you so much, and I'm going to continue with my Could Be a Spicy pickup. This Toad Scroll that stops people from putting cards back into their hand with effects of trainers or supporters or whatever is really good against Chien-Pao and maybe other decks in the future. So if you're hard teching for Chien-Pao in your area, this card could be really good. This Walk Trio could be pretty insane as well to just draw a bunch of cards as you put it into play. This Veluza, I think, is a good one-prize attacker that slots into Baxcalibur decks quite well. Being able to retain the energies onto the board means that you can stack energies, don't need to find those retrievals, don't need to put as much stock into that pieces. Iron Bundle is a searchable escape rope, basically, like a one-way escape rope, and that might be really good for dealing with decks to close out the game, basically. But opening Iron Bundle is not the best because Hyperblower can only be activated from the bench. So it is probably one of your worst starters, but it is an interesting idea for a card. Tapu Koko EX is a card that people are saying should be slotted into Miraidon because of its lightning typing. It has one retreat, which is a little bit of a downside for sure, but being able to do 120 and paralyze seems pretty strong in this current format. I don't know if it has any merit yet. I have to still test, but I think it is an interesting idea and would like to pick some up. Cofagrigus EX is pretty strong as well with its attack and ability, but I don't think it has a place yet in the format, so I'll just be picking some up just in case it does become good. Gourgeist seems pretty excellent for some sort of weird control, discard your hand archetype if it ever starts budding, and I'm not a control-brained player, but I know that control cards come from the weirdest of places, so I might as well pick this guy up. I think Skeledirge plus Skeledirge plus Skeledirge plus Skeledirge seems like a pretty intense combo that you could pair to play some weird fire-type attackers, and so I might as well pick up some Incendiary Song Skeledirges here in case this card does end up becoming good. At the current moment, I do think that the cost of building the board that you need to make is a little bit too steep, especially with the speed of this current format, but that all being said, card still seems pretty strong. Mousehold EX and its Solidarity ability is pretty funny, because you can have 6 Mousehold and Tandemaus in play, giving your opponent 240 damage, or sorry, 180 damage back if they attack into Mousehold, which is pretty insane. Like, what deck wants to do that? However, Mousehold does only have 230 HP, and it requires a lot of setup. It does have free retreat, so you can use Feather Balls and cards like that to set up your board. Feather and Level Balls effectively will set up your entire board for you. But we'll see how much merit this has. This does seem like a very interesting concept to me, and I want to work on it, but you guys don't have to. Don't worry about it. Iron Jugulus is one of those cards that makes a perfect sense in the Xatu Iron Valiant deck with the Homing Headbutt that allows you to spread 50 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. But besides that, Homing Headbutt and Baryon Beam do not seem like great attacks, especially in the current standard format for what they do and the cost. So I don't know if I would really play this card, but picking them up just in case the spread damage is very relevant in my testing is a good thing to do. This Duster and the Snorlax Doll are both control-oriented cards that I think have a lot of potential. I don't know how I would play them. Again, not a control player, but I think they have potential to be picked up. These are my It's a Trap. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but you can leave the video if you want here because I've just given you all the good sauce already. But these are all cards that I just don't think will see any reasonable play, or you just shouldn't pick them up and waste your money. Armarouge is like the only one that's on the border, I think. Orbeetle, Slitherwing, all these EXs are just pretty bad. Mewtwo is garbage. Frostlass is pretty bad. And then you have these other 3 X's. There's not too many of these support cards that have gotten hype that I think deserve to be in the It's a Trap category, but I do think a lot of the EXs that are in here are pretty garbage EXs compared to the ones that have been hyped up. So thank you for watching this kind of content. I hope you guys enjoyed my buy list video. If you do, please like and subscribe, and let me know what you're planning on picking up, what new deck you're going to try out first, and that's all from me. Peace out, guys. Have a great day.